try to pilot out a concept, try to get buy-in for a pilot, use that data and extrapolate. Or try to use proxies. If you've seen other sites that are doing similar things, try to use that to kind of forecast where you could be by bridging the two and come up with a logic that's sound.
Before we jump into today's episode, I'd like to give a quick shout out to the sponsor for this episode, Ahrefs. Ahrefs provides you with an all-in-one SEO toolset that does everything from rank tracking to backlink analysis, keyword research, and technical audits. The best part, you can now use Ahrefs Webmaster Tools for free to identify and prioritize optimization opportunities for your website, see all the keywords that your web pages are ranking for, take a close look at the websites that link back to and refer you in their content, and analyze other websites to find out what drives their rankings. Visit ahrefs.com/AWT and sign up for free. And now, back to today's episode. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the SaaS SEO Show. I'm your host, George Cassiotis, and today I'm very happy to be joined by Filipe Santos. Filipe is the global director of SEO at Toptal and had previously led organic growth at some amazing companies such as UiPath, Shutterstock, and the list goes on. I'm very excited to be joined by him because he's a real practitioner, and I'm sure that he will share with us many interesting insights. Filipe, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Georgios. Really appreciate being here. Thank you for the kind intro as well.
So, as we do with every guest here at the SaaS SEO Show, I would love, and I guess our listeners as well, to get to know you a bit better. So if you could share a few things about your journey so far that were important and that led to where you are today.
I'll try to make it interesting. I think it kind of is. It goes quite a way back, 15 years. I started off thinking that I wanted to be a web designer and developer. But then I realized I didn't really love it because it was too back office. Then I flipped over to the front end of that and went wholeheartedly into being a door-to-door sales guy for Super Pages way back when Verizon owned it. So then I guess I'd already known about SEO from my web development days, but it started to kind of become a real discipline in marketing. Started to have some guidelines, started to have some rules. It wasn't all about stuffing things into meta tags and all the garbage that had been in the past. So I started getting really interested with it again. And from then on, I kind of never looked back. Started on the agency side, realized I really like to hyper-focus on solving problems and thinking about specific projects and initiatives. So then I went client side. And that brings us to today, where I've dealt with some of the smallest and biggest companies that people know, and some of the most exciting ones, obviously, in the recent past, Shutterstock, UiPath, and Toptal. So very different businesses, very different structures, very different problems, but same consistent thing where innovation is key and understanding how to deliver everything through SEO to get the maximum impact has been my focus.
So nowadays you are leading the SEO efforts for Toptal. For people who have never heard of Toptal, can you please share a few things about it? Who is using the product and who gets the most value?
Absolutely. So Toptal is a very interesting because it's a unique platform. It's a marketplace of sorts, but it's more than that. Instead of just offering up the ability to get talent across multiple verticals, especially developers, designers, project managers, product managers, and finance folks, they focus on vetting the folks that are in the network. So the people that are there are truly experts, truly the top percentage of the best in all the skills that you might look for. So the really important thing there is that clients of all sizes, startups all the way up to enterprises, have been able to take advantage of that. Whether it's looking for a very specific resource that they don't have, or hiring out a whole team of folks to kind of cover the bases or actually complete entire projects or build out businesses. So that's been kind of a fascinating part about the marketplace that I don't think any other marketplace kind of serves up quite that way.
Yeah, I get it, and I agree with you. Even though we are not customers of Toptal, I guess that if you are looking for talent in some categories, this must be the place to look for talent. You have led organic growth in some very big companies, and I will focus on UiPath and Shutterstock because these are, I guess, in my world at least, of the SaaS industry, they are very notable ones. And I would like to know, how would you summarize your experience and everything that you've learned working with such big companies, and in Shutterstock's case, with such a strong focus on organic search?
Yeah, so the quick and skinny kind of interesting part of this is that they had been undergoing like a huge migration, and we're like in the midst of it, and we're losing ground in organic. So the key part for me was to just start to kind of grab the reins and make sure that the technical parts of the migration were handled for SEO. That we were also ensuring that the content that was being put up was also relevant and qualitative, and at the same time handling a lot of the internationalization that was happening across different languages that they wanted to add in as a go-to-market strategy. So what I would say is that their corpus of content, having it all be organic, I mean, 3 billion pieces if you think about across the different languages that they cover, made it a really, really difficult situation, but something that had to be harnessed. And the only way I was able to do that was kind of working with multiple teams, especially product, content, and working through other marketing groups and stakeholders, acquisition, for example, to ensure that we had the technology stack properly kind of accounted for. We understood what levers we had at our disposal at that moment, and then kind of putting in a roadmap for the future so that we could have healthy indexing. We could start to put out just what people wanted and understand how to use our data better, right? So that was a key part, and we did that. I mean, we were increasing our indexed coverage over image search as well as web search in the, I would say, upper hundreds of percent every single month because of the amount of content, and also because of the importance of that content. We just had to figure out some very nuanced problems.
And I guess also, quality as well must have
Yes.
played a role, yeah, especially for images.
Absolutely, and the hardest part, as you can imagine, for any marketplace is that you've got user-generated content, right? That's the focus. So you have to make sure that the content's relevant, B, it's got the quality that you need, and C, it's differentiated from other bits and out there, especially if you're not exclusive. So in many cases, we had to also make sure that our platforms were handling that and also producing a level of quality that and uniqueness that differentiated it and allowed it to be indexed and placed in top ranks.
Yeah, because I would say that in general, as I understand it, SEO is just a part of it. Like a very big part of it is also product, and you have to maintain quality there. Otherwise, people are not going to use the service, or if they are going to use the service, maybe they will not be happy with it and just look for another solution. You mentioned website migrations, and you briefly touched on acquisitions as well. Recently, we've been working with a client who has acquired a website, and we try to handle all the migration. We try to choose what new pages we have to create to this website, to the website that we are going to redirect everything, so that we can map everything accordingly. We had to, of course, exclude some pages. So there are many decisions that had to be made. And at the same time, there was a lot of opinion, about things, because anyone can do things in their own way, actually. And I can only assume that this is very simple based on compared to the migrations and website acquisitions that you have handled. But I would like to two questions here. The first one would be if you could share with us, the pros and cons of website acquisitions for SaaS companies based on your experience, and also a general comment on what those experiences have taught you about acquiring, businesses and websites behind these businesses.
Great question, and in both parts. Obviously very loaded because there's a lot that comes in with it. But I would say some of the pros, just to begin with, I really love the pros of this, of acquisitions, that you gain, obviously, the brand value, you gain a lot of the already conducted work around organic or any other channels that they've had under their belt for the acquisition. And another potential pro is that you are kind of aligning your business and you're able to add more capacity and also extend the service offering. From the con side, I would say that there's a resistance. There tends to be a resistance, especially if it's a business that has employees. There's a resistance from that level. There can be a resistance between the type of content that's being produced as well, and the voice and the tone and how it actually is structured and if it's interconnected or not. There's another con, which is the tech stack. If you haven't done your work around determining what the tech stack is and how easy it is to migrate that over, or kind of at least come to terms with what the technology is and how you can use it across your platforms or across your business, that's another big potential con, and drives out a lot more business costs, right? Because you have to be able to solve that. There's also a time factor. So depending on the type of acquisition, it can be easily migrated if you have a very good roadmap and kind of methodology, or it can be a really torturous one where you don't really understand a lot of things, and many components are missing, and now you have to figure that all out while you're flying the plane. So this is flying the plane and fixing it at the same time, which makes it extremely difficult. With regards to the kind of learnings of that, well, I've noted that most acquisitions, again, this all comes up to, I guess, executive buy-in, right? They might have made the decision to acquire a property or acquire a business, but at the end of the day, it's up to teams like the SEO team to help kind of create the foundation and create a plan, an action plan, which comprises of all the components, including the business side of things. So while we're not trying to step on toes, I think it's important to understand what implications it has on the business so that you can help drive it at least from your area of expertise and specialization. Then you have to kind of make sure that you're involved in the conversations with other teams that are involved in that actual migration or in that acquisition activity. I've had the benefit of actually leading acquisitions, which is kind of unusual for SEOs, and also having been kind of thrown into acquisitions once they've already been made and figure out what to do with them once we've gotten that. So I think I prefer the former, but both of them are kind of exciting.
I really like the answer and how you broke everything down. And I would like to shift gears a bit and touch on something that you mentioned in your previous answer, which is something that I'm very interested in. And I first read about it in your LinkedIn profile while I was doing research for this episode. One thing you worked on, I guess in both UiPath and Shutterstock, and other companies that you have worked on in the past, is internationalization. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I will not try to say it. Yeah, it is. And localization, obviously, which is far easier, I guess. Can you please explain the difference between the two? Because I am in this world, let's say, of content SEO, but I've heard localization, but I've never heard the other term that I'm not even going to try to pronounce.
Absolutely. So there are a myriad of different terms that are thrown out there, like internationalization and localization. I know they're a mouthful and they go by like small monikers. I think it's like INTL something. I forgot. There's like it's like L18N. I'm sorry, so that it just kind of shortens it down. But again, so the simple difference between the two is that think of internationalization as getting your site, platform, business, and operations ready to handle different languages and locations. That's essentially all it is machine translations, having the right kind of punctuation, right kind of like formatting for the site content, ensuring that you have a way to deliver international content or content to specific localities. Localization is very specific with trying to get a market, going for a unique or a niche market or a language market, and ensuring that you've got a delivery of content and everything else that's part of internationalization. Localization is just making sure that that experience is pleasant, because I might land on a page that is internationalized and has Spanish, But if it's not, let's say I'm from Spain and I'm getting Puerto Rican Spanish, it's not going to help me very much because we have different vernacular, and there's clearly a different way that we look at things. There might be words that don't make sense at all. There are different words completely. So it's very important to make sure that you have localization as a part of your marketing effort, and internationalization as kind of your platform technology level aspect of maintaining and controlling that go-to-market strategy.
Okay, that makes sense now. On a different topic, I'm very interested in this question, and I would like to know. I assume that as part of your role, which was and still is, I guess, to find, negotiate with, and retain even good vendors, service providers, partners. You can call them however you like. As a service provider ourselves, I'd really love to know what both public and big private companies look for when evaluating vendors, and also any insights and advice that you can share with people who are in the process of evaluating vendors for any projects or needs that they may have.
Absolutely. That's a great question. I know it's also very complicated, right? I could talk about it a million different ways. There, from the public company side, there's a lot of bureaucracy. There are different departments that handle things. For example, procurement, which sometimes in older, more stagnant companies, they have a role to play, right? And their role is to try to negotiate the price to be optimal and to negotiate terms. And sometimes that can be a problem just because it can cause a little bit of tension between relationships with the vendor and the client and the actual end user. So it's very important to kind of make friends with the procurement team and make sure that they understand that, like, if you've done some negotiating or if you've done some work to get the best possible price, that they understand that, and they maybe take a less aggressive tact in working through a relationship like that. From the private side, it tends to be more, I would say more like startup-ish in many cases, where you kind of ultimately have the control. And it's up to you as the person who's like the main vendor hirer, if you will, to ensure that the relationship's good, and you're obviously doing as much cost savings as you can in some cases, as well as getting every feature and capacity that you need. So it's kind of a nice little balance, and I've been able and lucky enough to be able to like learn how to do both. And the main thing I would say is when engaging a vendor. So first of all, to simplify the whole thing, it's finding a solution to your problem. So every single time you're looking for a vendor, you're basically looking for a way to solve for a problem, either on a project level or even on an ongoing, like, recurring basis. So if I'm looking for a platform that I can use all year round, every year, that's going to be something that I have to absolutely know I have the tool set for. If it's something like getting content development, I'll have a whole different set of instructions. Maybe it's for a specific project. Or maybe it's also ongoing, but like it's in stages or tranches. So the best thing I can offer up is whenever going into a relationship as a person who's hiring a vendor, I would say that you should always kind of have your information ahead of you if you can. Think about exactly what you need. Do the due diligence with talking with your team members and others, stakeholders, to find out what kind of features, what kind of capacities are needed. And how many of them strike the chord, and how many you can check off the boxes that make sense for you, so that you get the best possible vendor to meet your needs. Now, from the vendor side, I would say it's really critical to make sure you've addressed as many common scenarios and as common a problem set as you can, so that when people are searching and trying to figure out which solution's best for them, or even if you're having direct conversations already, you've got case studies, or at least interesting concepts or innovations that you're working on that are guided in your prospect's best interest, and sharing that as often and as transparently as possible, because that does make a lot of communication go more smoothly and helps the end user a lot. I've had that where vendors come to me proactively, and I love it. I don't want to be hard sold, but I want to be convinced that they've got something that can definitely help me either save time, get more expertise, or figure out something that I just do not have a full handle of.
Okay, that's a great answer. I think you kind of touched on that, which is bureaucracy in bigger companies, which is obviously a common theme in bigger companies. As a company grows, there will be more layers, more signatures, more everything. And I would like to know how do you fight that? How do you make sure that you launch new initiatives faster and without so many people being involved and having to have a say on the approval or not of the project?
Georgios, amazing question. And boy, has my perception of answering that changed over the years, right? When I first started, I was kind of hitting my head against the wall. And I was basically, here's this amazing thing. I've done everything. I've got the solutions for you here. You just have to say yes and market and let's do it. And that never goes anywhere, because even if it's a smaller company, there are those levels and there are those people who are charged with making the decisions. And even though we want to be as proactive as possible and we want to bring solutions, sometimes we have to understand that we're basically just a facilitator, right? We have to facilitate what the business needs. And in that regard, meaning we bring a set of solutions, we bring scenarios, we bring what the possible solution is, but we of course we can guide it, but it's ultimately up to the executives or the leadership to kind of come through with that and make sure that they can sign it off. The other piece that is very important, besides the executive layer or the management layer, is making friends in all of the departments, and I mean that in the most legitimate way. I really do connect with people, and I want to connect with people because I know at the end of the day, even if I don't work with them today, there might be a time in the future where we need to work together. And what's better than already having a warm handshake? I mean, it's just very important, and I think it's key to go outside of your comfort zone. Ice break as much as possible. Meet people from different teams, even if they don't seem like they're relevant to your work, because one day they will. And I mean that because I have worked on projects where all of a sudden I'm tasked with doing something, and it's with a department I really did not even consider outside of just being friendly. And it paid dividends, because it was much easier to kind of push things and kind of have them help me with what is less resistant, what has a lower barrier to kind of get across the finish line, and to help me get projects promoted. The other bit of I guess advice I would give to everybody here is, besides working on the executive and trying to simplify things and make it clear for them and giving them possible solutions, but not forcing anything, and working with making friends and making sure that you work with multiple departments, is simplifying everything and speaking the language of the business. So if you're able to clearly delineate what the business cares about and what SEO cares about by creating a proxy, you're going to be, it's going to be a little less foreign. So just imagine we're in a room and your native language is Italian and mine is Spanish. It's close, but it's not really the same, right? So I have to be able to kind of bridge that. And if we both speak English, at least we can start there, right? And I think that's the way I would communicate this, is that you need to understand how to present your ideas as simply as you can and with very tight relevance to the business objectives. And from there, then you can sell your project a lot faster.
I agree with you, but on top of that, I would like to also hear your thoughts on something else. How do you answer the ROI question? Because this is something that I guess not only agencies like us get all the time. Okay, but how do we know that this is going to work? A, and B, like how can we make a projection or forecast or whatever, so that I can make my case stronger and try to like sell it, let's say, internally. In your opinion, we can do forecasts, okay, but I'm a bit skeptical because I know that they paint a picture which at the end of the day doesn't really say anything. It's just for instant gratification. Yeah, we have this forecast and this is how the traffic will look like, but at the end of the day, it's not true. Like, no forecast is accurate. Like, you just paint a picture. And I would like to hear your thoughts on that. Like, do you think that there's actual value on forecasting things? And if yes, like, do you have any insights or anything that you can share with us that could help, in launching new initiatives regarding content and SEO?
Yeah, that's a great point. And to exactly where you're going with this, I agree. I think forecasts inherently, if you're using data that you currently have and it isn't proven, it's going to be flawed, and there is no such thing as a perfect model. But it's your best bet if you have no other data and if you can't get there yet. But I would say for those that can, try to pilot out a concept, try to get buy-in for a pilot, use that data and extrapolate. Or try to use proxies. If you've seen other sites that are doing similar things, try to use that to kind of forecast where you could be by bridging the two and come up with a logic that's sound. Basically, if you're going to compare yourself, with an apple and apple, that's one thing. If you're comparing an apple and orange, you got to have a reason why that orange is similar, right? And you have to be able to make it concrete, and that's the hardest part. So I would try to stick to close comparables, similar to what they do in the real estate market. If you're looking at different houses or apartments, you're going to want to get a comp that's similar, and that's the same thing here. If you can't do a pilot, pilots also help very much, because you start to collect some data and you can say how realistic or not realistic that initial forecast is, and then sell it a little bit better.
That's a great analogy. I like it, and I think that this may be the highlight of the podcast, like the one that we will keep for the intro. I would like to take you to a different topic now, and I would like to talk about Google a bit. And specifically Google's latest algorithm update, helpful content update. What are your thoughts on this update? Any insights that you can share? How do you think that it will affect how content is developed?
Yeah, I know it's a little early, and obviously I'm kind of watching things as they kind of roll out, but I do kind of feel it's similar to Panda in a sense, that they're really trying to like deal with thinned out content, duplicate content, poor quality, AI content, stuff like that. But at the same time, I also believe that there's no such thing as stripping out AI content just because it's AI content. That's not what they're trying to say here. What they're trying to say here is that essentially, if your content is done to just make it as boilerplate as possible to cover as many bases as you can, it's not going to be very effective, because it's not giving users what they need, and when they get there, they're not going to enjoy it. So essentially, they're using those NLP methods. They're using the machine learning algorithms that they've started to build to understand nuance. So we kind of have to be better about creating quality content, and quality can be a very heavy lifting word, but in this sense, if you're trying to sell specific services or you're offering specific products and people have problems that are associated with that, and you help define it, but then you also give them answers and you give them a lot of good resourcing, something that is authoritative and has expert content, there's like very little chance that that's not going to do well. What they're trying to do is target specifically stuff that's done in bulk as crap. And AI content can be that, but there's also AI content I've seen that has been much better than what somebody has written by hand. So it's more about just understanding to what level you take it. If you do a little blend of both, obviously you want to get rid of any like low quality content or low performing content that's just like not helping your audience out, and focusing a little less on what you think Google has wanted over the past years, and kind of focus on how do I make sure that this is optimized, but also very clear in terms of getting something valuable and useful as a nugget for the user. If you've done that, then you've done your job, and I don't think this update will really affect you very much. And it is probably going to be a low and slow rumbler, meaning that this is not going to be an instant that you're going to see a dip like in past years. But it's consistent with last year and the year before, where it's been like you start seeing chipping away at your traffic if you're doing things wrong. And in this case, we don't know what wrong is yet, right? We can only understand from what they've told us that it tends to be stuff that is duplicative, low quality, or just like produced in bulk. And I think those are the key things I would watch out for. If you have that, just start working on making a better model or creating new content that can help support the user at the end that's doing the search. And if you're getting better click-through methods, click-through rates and stuff, then you're probably starting to solve that problem for you.
Do you see updates like this indicating on behalf of Google a gradual shift, let's say, from purely text-based content to interactive content, or I don't know, something else that we are not aware of yet? Meaning that everyone can write words. Not everyone can create meaningful experiences or memorable experiences online. Do you think that it could also be that, you know what, okay, text is great, but this is not the only thing. Entities and, stuffing keywords or whatever, or checking all the boxes is not going to be enough, because I'm better at understanding whether or not you are actually providing people with a great experience.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely agree with you. And it's not because I think Google didn't want to, or we didn't want to as SEOs. I think it's always been a technical barrier, right? Text is just easier. It is something that machines can, without the leverage of AI, we're able to kind of like figure out. I mean, I don't know if folks remember, but like the old Flash days and all that, where nothing was visible and you had to create text behind it, and there were like all these creative methods. It's like that. So basically, with machine learning and with AI, there is visual recognition through like computer vision. There's other ways to start determining things. There's like all the recent trend with like deep fakes and video analysis engines. So all that is starting to come together to a point where overhead is less. And again, when we're talking about overhead and like tech debt in terms of like how easy it is to build a component to an algorithm that can determine how valuable and what a piece of content is about, and I'm talking about any piece of content, interactive or not, that's going to be the key to what our SEO skills in the future may become, is focusing rather not just on textual content, but on supporting the experience, as you mentioned. And I really like that because I've never been one to say that a page should be text heavy, right? It feels terrible to have a text heavy page unless you're a researcher and you're looking through a paper and you need to get really deep into the woods, into the weeds. But for most people, we're visual creatures, right? We want to see, we want to experience, we want to feel, we want to touch. We have different sensations, and that's the same that's going to happen with the VR and the AR, and all these things are already here. It's just how do you classify them and serve them up in a search engine. So I don't think we're too far away, and they're definitely working on it now. It's just right now the easiest thing and the cheapest thing is text.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, I understand and I agree. Speaking of the skills of the future, I assume that a big part of your work nowadays is to find, inspire, and retain great talent. And I would like to know what, in your experience, are the characteristics of a talented SEO person? And also, how do you inspire and retain these people?
That's a great question. And I have done probably more hiring in the last 3 years than I've done in my whole career. And that's a good thing. It's led me to understand exactly what and what is not necessary from like interview processes, and, how to kind of tell the shining stars of the bunch, even if they're neophytes or they don't understand things or they haven't been in SEO. The core thing is, I think, and this is probably trite, people have heard this before, it's the creative, they have to have like a sense of creativity. They have to be extremely curious and they have to be kind of, I hate to say go-getter, but they have to be willing to kind of put a little bit more time, even if it's not like, in their personal time, to figure things out, because SEO is ever changing, never stays the same. There are all kinds of things that are associated with SEO. So it's never just SEO, right? You kind of want to understand a little bit of programming. You want to understand a little bit about content marketing. You want to understand social, all these other things that are kind of adjacent, and things that are even not like the business, for example. What's the business model? How does that apply to you? How do you sell your projects? So if you're really, for most talent that are trying to come through the door and that I see, I'm looking for the characteristics of, are they kind of picking up things on their own? Are they willing to? Do they have the curiosity to keep asking questions and asking the right kind of questions and kind of leading their thought process? Can they come up with unique ways of solving problems, even if it's not considered correct? And can they kind of, are they part of a team? Do they really want to like contribute, and do they feel like this is a mission that they want to keep riding with? And I think that kind of encapsulates all the things that I look for. And then I kind of look at the specialization. I look at the their focus, what they've done in their life, and like where their areas of strength might be. So I think that's one. And then to retain and kind of keep people motivated, I sift out what their specializations are. I sift out what they feel strongly in, or what they really love to do. And then I try to see if there are projects or things that we need to work on that can use those skills. And I kind of pave out a little road for those folks to kind of go that route and see if they like it, and kind of get themselves engaged and even lead certain aspects of that, so that they feel like they've had enough skin in the game and they really are able to build themselves up and learn new skills and advance their career as well. So I think it's key that people recognize their strengths, if you're a leader or a manager, and you recognize exactly how to forge people into projects and initiatives. Even if you have none at the moment, maybe you can start like coming up with ones that are relevant to the business and relevant to your roadmap.
Do you see a world where the skills of today that are important today for an SEO professional and a strong team member are just irrelevant, let's say, in the near future? Like maybe we will be discussing not about, I don't know, keyword research or whatever with a traditional sense, but about something else in the future. Maybe SEO professionals should be more focused on knowing or learning how to code, for example. Do you see a change in the future? And I guess the question that I would like to hear your thoughts on here would be, do you think that there is a future actually for SEO?
I do. I don't think SEO is going to go away as long as we have a way or we have a need for finding information, right? As long as that exists in some form, it may not be an engine, it may not be a search engine in the traditional aspect, but there is going to be a form of a corpus of information of humanity, of all the things that we need. And there's got to be a way to present that information and collect that information, right? As part B. So I think that will not change. What will change, I do agree with you, skills will have to be transferred. There will be new things added to our complexity. So I think being able to be creative, I mentioned the creative aspect is more about like coming up with content, right? And then on the other side is technical. So you're going to have to understand how to use those creative concepts in a technical way, because we're becoming more and more dependent on machines and on like algorithms, and it's just the nature of the beast. That's what we do. Like look at it at the smartphone. I mean, we were using flips a while back, and we didn't know anything about using all these sophisticated things on our phone, and now we're using it for everything, like to the point of communication. We're doing it for GPS, we're doing it for finding our best restaurant, looking at reviews, doing all that stuff. So we didn't think that was going to come so fast, but here it is, and now everybody's dependent on that, including folks that aren't even good with technology. So I think it's just a matter of transferring skills to something new.
I think that's a great way to close things. That was all very, very insightful. I mean, I learned many new things from this episode, and I'm sure that people will definitely learn something new as well. Filipe, thank you very much. Last question I have for you is where people can find out more about you and get in touch if they want.
Yeah, so I think the easiest, as you mentioned, is LinkedIn. I do a lot more on LinkedIn. I don't really put out too much of my own stuff. I might build out a site in the near future, but LinkedIn. Yeah, so Filipe Santos SEO, or you can just search Filipe Santos SEO or Filipe Santos. It'll come up. The only problem is that since my name is Filipe Santos, it's the John Smith of let's say Brazil and Portugal.
Okay, we will drop it in the show notes. We will drop the URL in the show notes so that we can make it easier for people to connect with you. Filipe, thank you very much for doing this. Knowing how busy you are, I really, appreciate you coming here and talk to us. So thank you very much. And who knows, maybe we'll have to do another episode in the near future to talk about the next level of SEO and all these interesting things.
Sounds great. Thank you, Georgios, for having me, and appreciate the conversation. It's been amazing.
Before you go, I'd like to give a quick shout out to the sponsor for this episode, Ahrefs. Ahrefs provides you with an all-in-one SEO toolset that does everything from rank tracking to backlink analysis, keyword research, and technical audits. The best part, you can now use Ahrefs Webmaster Tools for free to identify and prioritize optimization opportunities for your website, see all the keywords that your web pages are ranking for, take a close look at the websites that link back to and refer you in their content, and analyze other websites to find out what drives their rankings. Visit ahrefs.com/AWT and sign up for free.